Is the $130 eBay special tubing bender worth your time? Well, short answer, if you have a welder and half a brain, yes, it is worth your time. Now, the first thing we're going to talk about is what you cannot get away with trying to use this thing. So, number one, most important thing you're not going to get away with. You're not going to get away with not putting this thing in concrete. This thing puts an insane amount of stress on the actual tool itself. I mounted this to that table in the background over there with my transmission stuff on it, and it turned that table into a Pringle. So just assume you're going to have to mount it into concrete unless you're bending like half-inch tubing or something like that. Second thing you're not going to get away with, this is the actual handle that they include with the bender. It's about, I would say, 18 inches long. That is junk. It will not produce the force that you need to bend any tubing probably bigger than like 3/8 of an inch or half inch maybe. So just throw it away. Go to Lowe's or Home Depot and get you a 1-inch inner diameter Schedule 40 pipe. It's the big like painted black ones with the threads on the end. 4 foot long, works perfect. Side note, you may have to weld it to the actual like handle piece as you see here in order for it to work properly. My handle broke, so we just welded it anyway. And number 3, kind of a no-brainer, you're not going to get away with a small area for this thing. If you're trying to bend maybe a 2-foot long piece of tube, yeah, maybe. But if you have like the 8-foot to 10-foot long round tubes like I do, you're going to need a large area to actually like bend the tubing. But that's enough of that. Let's just get into actually using this thing and how to do that. So you need to go into the back of this thing and you need to make sure that the handle is fairly lined up with a little like bracket that holds the tubing in place here. You can get it in there, and if it is too hard to get it in there, you're approaching it from the wrong angle and you need to move the tubing around a little bit. Or worst comes to worst and you just are frustrated with it, get a hammer on the end of it and tap it on in. So let me start by saying that you need to invest in a lot of WD-40 because it will make things a lot smoother. So I blasted the roller wheel here and my tubing. So next we are going to decide what angle we need. I only need a 90-degree bend for the top of this toilet paper holder that I'm building. So that's fairly simple, and I don't need it exactly 90 degrees, so I'm going to eyeball it. But if you get a square, you can kind of line it up from there and see what the angle is. And if you also get, they have the little devices that will measure the angle, that will work as well. Now know while you're bending the tubing, you need to put a fair amount of force into it. It's not going to be easy. I have a disproportionately large torso, so I do have a lot of weight to throw around, and it's easier for me. Now when you're bending the tubing, I don't recommend letting the actual bender go off the end of the tube. If you need, say, something like this, you don't want to like have your bender actually come this way. You want to have it come this way, go straight, and you can cut it off here. Because otherwise it kind of like, I don't know if you can see that, it gets oval really, really bad, and you may have trouble getting it out of the bender. So just assume you're going to have to do some cutting afterwards. So the easiest way to remove this thing from the bender is to come out through the curved part where the die is. If you have several bends on this thing already, then you're going to have to kind of figure it out on your own. But if you have half a brain like you should before you order this thing, it shouldn't be an issue for you. Just play with it a little bit, right? Now this is just a test piece that I did. I had laying around, but you can see it does a fairly good job doing bends. I'd say a good deal. And that is all there is to using this thing. So some complaints that I've seen online with this thing. I've seen that people, this little piece here, have broken off for some people. This thing is cast iron, so I'm sure you could just weld it right back on and reinforce it if you need. My own personal issue, the handle broke and I had to, weld a piece of pipe to it, or my brother did. This is not going to be easy to bend the tubing. You need to understand, you need to put a fair amount of force or a moderate amount of force on this thing. That can be a downside too. You're not just gonna go and bend a 1-inch piece of tubing. It's not gonna happen. You need to like instead. So keep that in mind as well. But anyway, let's finish welding up this toilet paper holder. I will let you be free from that. As usual, you be good while I'm gone, and I will see you next time. Have a good week.